Ever just want to hop on your bike and see what it can really do? Like really open it up without worrying about, well, cars and stuff.
That's what we're diving into today, motorcycle track days.
Exactly. We're going deep on track days, but especially why riders, especially seasoned ones, find them so appealing.
Right, we've got this really interesting text that unpacks it all, the whole idea of a controlled environment for, well, pushing limits.
And what I really want to get into, what our listener specifically asked about, is why experienced riders are so drawn to this. You'd think they've had enough thrills, but this text hints at something deeper going on.
Totally. First, it breaks down what a track day even is.
Yeah.
Structured event, closed circuit, all about you and the bike's capabilities. But there's this phrase, controlled freedom, that I think is key.
Controlled freedom. Okay, that seems like a contradiction, but I think I get it.
Yeah, the text talks about how even the best riders on the street, they're holding back, right? Always traffic, conditions, who knows what's around the corner.
Makes sense. You can't exactly push a sports bike to its limits on Main Street.
Exactly. And the text even says riders feel limited, sometimes even endangered, because of all those compromises you got to make on public roads.
Totally. This text really hit me with that part about how it's like, your bike can do more, but there's always that what if.
Right. Gravel on that turn, a car over the hill, a deer on a track, that all goes away. You can lean in, push it, knowing it's just you and the machine.
So it's about getting rid of those external things, tapping into that human desire to really master something, push boundaries, but do it safely, which sounds like track days let you do legally too.
Exactly. And it ties into this idea psychologists call flow state. Ever get so absorbed in something that, like, time disappears?
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's it. Our brains love that state. And track days seem to provide it in a really pure form. No distractions, just you, totally present, responding to the bike and the track.
Wow. So it's like all the noise of life fades away and it's just that pure pursuit.
Yeah, and the text argues there's a deeper psychological thing going on too, but we'll get into that in a bit.
So we've talked about like flow state and pushing those boundaries, but what really stood out to me in this text was how it's not just about going fast, right? It's about pushing your own personal limits, whatever those are for you.
Yeah, that's a great point. The text actually challenges this idea that track days are only for, like, speed freaks or adrenaline junkies. Yeah. It uses some really good examples of different riders who maybe aren't setting lap records, but still find a ton of value in the experience.
Yeah, and this is where that whole controlled environment thing comes in again, right? It's like we look for those controlled environments to learn all sorts of stuff, driving school, the golf range, even a cooking class. We want to get better, but without the risk of, messing up in the real world. Track days offer that same kind of safe space for riders.
Total. You said it. The track takes away all those variables, the what-ifs, that can really mess with your head when you're out on the street. It's about making this environment that's consistent, predictable, so you can focus on your riding and nothing else. What's really cool is that this focus, this constant feedback between you, the bike, and the track can actually be incredibly empowering.
Empowering. How so?
Think about it. Every time you push a little harder, lean a little lower, every time you brake a little later, you're proving something to yourself. You're breaking through those self-imposed limitations, those mental barriers we put up over time. So it's not just physical.
Right.
It's challenging what you believe you can do.
So it's almost like a metaphor for life. Like getting past what you think your limits are to achieve something you didn't think was possible.
Exactly. And the text even touches on that, how track riding can be its own kind of self-discovery, peeling back the layers to see what you're really made of as a rider. And that feeling, knowing I did that, that's powerful stuff. And it can spill over into other parts of your life too,
Okay, so we've got this controlled environment, allows riders to push their limits, find that flow state, and maybe even tap into this deeper sense of self. But there's one more piece of this. Our source mentioned something about the community aspect of track days too. It's not like it's just you alone out there on the track though, right? Our text focused a lot on the individual's experience, but I'm wondering about the group aspect, how other riders play into the whole track day thing.
That's often overlooked, but it's a really fascinating part of it. The text doesn't get too deep into that, but the community aspect of track days is huge, adds a whole other layer, both in terms of like the challenge and the whole vibe.
So it's less about you versus the track, more about you and the other riders kind of pushing those shared limits together.
Exactly. They're just like an energy when you're surrounded by people who get it.
Yeah.
Everyone's there for the same reasons, to push themselves, to learn, to just get better. It's unspoken, but you can feel it.
The text did mention that usually there are like experienced instructors on hand to give feedback, guidance, that kind of thing. That's got to create a pretty cool learning environment, I'd imagine.
Oh, for sure. It's not just about competition at all. There's a real sense of mentorship, you know? Experienced riders giving tips to the newer folks, people checking out each other's bikes, everyone cheering each other on.
Wow, so it's like this whole subculture almost where you can really bond over the love of riding in a way that's just not possible out in the real world, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that sense of belonging, being part of something bigger, that's powerful stuff. Turns the whole track day experience into something much more meaningful.
This has been amazing. We went from riding on a track to like all these psychological benefits, the community. No wonder track days have such dedicated fans.
Right. It's not just speed, not just adrenaline. It's this unique mix of pushing limits, finding that flow, connecting with people, all in a safe environment. Really unique experience.
So anyone listening, if you've ever wanted to really open ITUP on your bike, feel that pure joy of riding without the limits of, well, everything else. Maybe a track day is calling your name.
Think about it. What limits could you break through by just getting out of your comfort zone and onto that track?
Now that is something to think about. Until next time, everyone, ride safe and keep exploring those limits, on the track or off.